Tonight, breaking news, the sweeping arrests on campuses, the dramatic images tonight from UCLA, and from New York City to Portland, Oregon. How many of these protesters are outside agitators? The new numbers tonight. President Biden this evening saying violent protest is not protected. Also tonight here in the Northeast, the crash and tanker truck explosion shutting down a key part of I-95 in both directions. And severe storms tonight across several states. The disaster just declared.
Get back! Get back!
First tonight, the dramatic images of police in riot gear clearing the campus at UCLA. Flashbangs echoing across the university. The overnight operation into today, removing barricades, dismantling the pro-Palestinian encampment. In New York City, the new images just out, and tonight authorities now say half the protesters arrested at Columbia and elsewhere were not affiliated with schools in the city. Also tonight here on I-95 in the Northeast, that fiery crash shutting down the interstate, the tanker truck carrying gasoline exploding into flames. How long will it be shut down? Tonight, the deadly plane crash into a neighborhood. Authorities now saying the pilot swerving in between homes on his way down. They believe he must have been trying to save lives as the plane was descending. The severe storms and life-threatening flash flooding, a disaster just declared in Texas. We'll time this out. This evening, the dramatic testimony at Donald Trump's criminal trial, and Trump at the end of the day leaving court telling reporters he cannot testify. But legal observers saying he certainly can, and for weeks he said he would. The race for president, and tonight President Biden saying take Donald Trump at his word after Trump refused to commit to accepting the results of the November election. Tonight, the desperate search underway for an American and two friends, brothers, who are now missing while on a trip to Mexico. There is news coming in, several people now detained in connection with their disappearance. Tonight, the safety of ground beef, the USDA testing ground beef for possible traces of bird flu, and the results coming in so far. And tonight, the photo of a rare bird seen right here in the U.S., the beauty, and you'll see it. It has bird watchers and scientists tonight asking, could this be the first time ever?
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening, and it's great to have you with us here on a Thursday night. That crash and explosion here in the Northeast on I-95, closing down the interstate in both directions. We're over the scene tonight. But we begin tonight with the dramatic new images of the crackdown and arrests on campuses across the country. President Biden speaking out for the first time, defending peaceful protest, saying violent protest is not protected. The dramatic images tonight from UCLA, hundreds of protesters defying orders to leave, police moving in overnight and right into today, firing flashbangs to break up the crowds, confrontations turning physical in the chaos and smoke there. Officials tonight say at UCLA more than 200 arrested. In Portland, Oregon tonight, officers taking back the library at Portland State University. Police releasing images of ball bearings, makeshift armor, and what they called improvised weapons. In New York City tonight, new images from inside Columbia, and this evening, police now say of the nearly 300 arrests at Columbia and nearby City College, nearly half were outside agitators. ABC's Trevor Ault leading us off, starting with those dramatic images from UCLA early today.
Tonight, the dramatic images of authorities moving in during the overnight hours, cracking down on protesters at UCLA and driving them out, continuing their effort to oust them as the sun came up. The university declaring this pro-Palestinian encampment an unlawful gathering, calling in outside help.
Get back! Get back!
Hundreds of officers arriving in riot gear, firing flashbangs and non-lethal ammunition.
Protesters basically spent all of yesterday putting up this barricade. We're watching law enforcement tear it apart one by one, firing these projectiles here as this encampment is basically slowly coming down.
We're not leaving!
Protesters donning hard hats and gas masks, at times spraying fire extinguishers, insisting they had no weapons, asking police not to shoot. Officers then moving in.
Law enforcement basically pinned these demonstrators up against the building here. They're being walked away in zip ties. They have been taken into custody peacefully so far.
More than 200 people arrested at UCLA. And in Portland tonight, the dramatic clashes there just today at Portland State University.
You're under arrest! If you resist, we will use force!
As officers cleared a library where anti-war protesters had barricaded themselves inside. Police releasing photos of ball bearings and DIY armor they say were homemade weapons.
Interfering or resisting arrest may result in use of force and on criminal charges.
And tonight, authorities revealing what they say has become all too common: outside agitators. Of the 12 people arrested in Portland, police say just 4 were actually students.
Let's deploy a flashback.
And tonight in New York, authorities releasing new images from inside the NYPD's raid at Columbia University, making the same point that much of this is being driven by outside agitators. Police in New York say of the 282 people arrested at Columbia and nearby City College, nearly half of them, 134, were not affiliated with the schools. And tonight, after days of protests across the country, President Biden now speaking out, saying order must prevail.
Destroying property is not a peaceful protest. It's against the law. Vandalism, trespassing, breaking windows, shutting down campuses, forcing the cancellation of classes and graduations. None of this is a peaceful protest.
The president condemning anti-Semitism and threats of violence against Jewish students. He also spoke out against discrimination against Arab Americans.
There is no place for hate speech or violence of any kind, whether it's anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, or discrimination against Arab Americans or Palestinian Americans. It's simply wrong.
And President Biden said the National Guard should not intervene in these protests. He did specify the demonstrations have not swayed his policies on Gaza. And David, here at UCLA tonight, the only thing left of this encampment is this dumpster filled with debris. But you can't rule out the possibility of new demonstrations popping up. David?
Much different scene there behind you tonight, Trevor Ault. Thank you. We turn next tonight to that fiery crash north of New York City on I-95, shutting down the interstate in both directions. A gas tanker truck carrying thousands of gallons of fuel colliding with a car and a flatbed truck under an overpass on I-95. This is in Norwalk, Connecticut, these images. The explosion that followed, and tonight word that traffic could be shut down for days. Erielle Reshef over the scene tonight.
Tonight, a crucial stretch of Interstate 95 just north of New York City shut down in both directions after this fiery crash involving a gasoline tanker truck carrying 8,500 gallons of fuel. Norwalk fire officials say it happened around 5:30 this morning.
One car cut off a tractor trailer. This one here, the gasoline tanker, swerved to avoid it and ripped open the back of the gasoline, went down the road. He ended up stopping under the bridge.
Be advised, the Fairfield Ave overpass is completely engulfed on the southbound side, spreading over to the northbound side.
Firefighters took 3 hours to put out the inferno, and the overpass is so badly damaged it will have to be torn down.
Thank God, no serious injuries, but it has resulted in the closing of I-95 north and south.
More than 160,000 vehicles cross this stretch of I-95 every day, including tractor trailers hauling goods from Florida to Maine, now forced to detour on side streets, creating a traffic nightmare.
I'm coming from New Haven, and it got stuck out here for 6 hours so far.
David, you can see that crews are still very much on this scene. Public schools in this area will be closed tomorrow because of all of this. This stretch of I-95 in both directions expected to be closed at least until Monday as crews work to bring down that bridge. David?
Until Monday. All right, Erielle Reshef tonight. Erielle, thank you. We turn now to the deadly plane crash in Augusta, Georgia. The small plane going down in a heavily populated neighborhood, and authorities say the pilot was swerving in between homes on the way down. And tonight they say it is clear he was trying to save lives on his way down. ABC's Faith Abube in Georgia.
Tonight, the pilot who lost his life in this fiery crash hailed as a hero, avoiding homes as a single-engine plane went down in this Augusta, Georgia neighborhood, preventing an even greater tragedy.
It's definitely a miracle. Just by looking at it, the pilot was experienced. Otherwise, he could have landed that plane on a house, on top of a car.
Around 7:15 this morning, Jason McKenzie taking off alone from nearby Daniels Field Airport, turning back to the airfield and hitting a tree. His plane weaving between two homes before bursting into flames just before 8 a.m. Debris raining down a propeller on the curb, part of a wing caught in branches. McKenzie did not survive.
We heard a pop and kind of knew instantly, hey, something's wrong, and then just heard this crash.
At the time of the crash, community members would have been leaving for work, getting children ready for school. Authorities saying they were lucky.
Very lucky, and we can only credit that pilot for that situation, for having the wherewithal to not involve another structure.
And David, tonight family and friends are remembering that pilot saying when you met Jason, you liked Jason, and that the community is sad. In the meantime, the FAA and the NTSB are investigating what led up to that crash. David?
Authorities praising that pilot tonight. Faith, thank you. Tonight, a disaster has just been declared in Texas amid life-threatening flash flooding in several states. That disaster declared north of Houston after days of severe weather, tornadoes, and up to 8 inches of rain now. ABC's Mireya Villarreal in Texas with the extraordinary images tonight.
Tonight, dangerous storms triggering life-threatening flash flooding and evacuations in the south. Drivers stranded on flooded roads near Houston. Authorities just issuing a disaster declaration.
In 25 years that I've lived here, I have never seen it flood like this.
What are you doing? You're driving into the creek. No, stop!
Onlookers screaming as rushing water swept this car away in College Station, Texas, northwest of Houston.
Good news, the girl is okay.
That driver escaping, clinging to a rail. Up to 8 inches of rain falling in some areas. In northeast Kansas, watch as a monster EF3 tornado packing 140-mile-per-hour winds sent debris flying on Tuesday. That terrifying funnel swirling overhead. At least one person killed, nearly 24 homes destroyed.
And David, our weather team is tracking another round of severe weather that is expected to hit central Texas, bringing with it hail and the possibility of more tornadoes. That weather system expected to hit the Austin area and right here in Dallas overnight. David?
Watching these storms into the night, Mireya, thank you. Here in New York City tonight, the dramatic testimony at Donald Trump's criminal trial today. Jurors hearing about Donald Trump's alleged efforts to keep Stormy Daniels quiet, allegedly well into his presidency. And tonight, what did Donald Trump mean when he said late today, "I cannot testify"? Aaron Katersky at the courthouse.
Tonight, Donald Trump off the campaign trail and right back in front of a judge. Jurors hearing testimony that his efforts to keep Stormy Daniels quiet about their alleged affair lasted well into his presidency. The porn star was paid $130,000 12 days before the 2016 election so voters wouldn't hear her story. The money came from Trump's former fixer, Michael Cohen, and Trump then paid him back. Prosecutors charged the former president illegally falsified business records to make it look like a legal expense. Trump claims Cohen acted on his own, but in court, prosecutors played a recording of a phone call between Cohen and Daniels' lawyer at the time, Keith Davidson. Cohen telling him Trump often complained about paying the hush money.
I can't even tell you how many times he said to me, I hate the fact that we did it. And my comment to him was, but every person that you've spoken to told you it was the right move.
Davidson testified that after the election, Cohen kept in touch, making sure Stormy Daniels was keeping quiet. When stories about Trump and Daniels began bubbling up in 2018, Davidson says Cohen had him draft multiple statements in the porn star's name, one denying a sexual and/or romantic affair with Donald Trump. Davidson insisting the letter was technically true because no one ever alleged that any interaction between she and Mr. Trump was romantic.
Stormy Daniels.
But Stormy Daniels was done playing along.
Did you sign this letter that was released today?
I don't know, did I?
Wait a minute, that you can say,
that does
right?
not look like my signature, does it?
Davidson testified Daniels was eager to talk about her life and reinvigorate her career, and at that point, neither Michael Cohen nor Donald Trump could stop her. Trump has repeatedly said he would testify in his own defense, but today, on his way out of court, he made this false claim.
Well, I'm not allowed to testify. I'm under a gag order, I guess, right? I can't even testify on that.
The gag order does not prevent Trump from testifying, as he has said on at least 3 different occasions he would. Every criminal defendant, David, has the right to testify in his or her own defense. That includes Donald Trump. David?
Aaron Katersky at the courthouse again tonight. Thank you, Aaron. Meantime, in the race for the White House, Donald Trump refusing to commit now to accepting the results of the upcoming November election. And President Biden tonight saying, take Donald Trump at his word on this. Here's Mary Bruce.
Tonight, the Biden campaign is calling Donald Trump a danger to the Constitution and a threat to our democracy after the former president refused to say he would accept the results of the election. Trump telling the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, "If everything's honest, I'd gladly accept the results. If it's not, you have to fight for the right of the country." Tonight, President Biden saying take Trump at his word. Our Karen Travers asking him,
"Are you worried that Trump says he won't accept the election results?"
Earlier this week, when Trump was asked by Time magazine if he's concerned about violence if he doesn't win, he said, "If we don't win, it depends. It always depends on the fairness of an election." Biden has been ramping up his warnings.
He promises, quote, a bloodbath if he loses. This guy denies January 6th. Listen to what he says, because he means it.
The president urging voters to take this seriously as some of Trump's language echoes what he said in the run-up to the January 6th attack on the Capitol. The Biden campaign concerned that Trump supporters may be listening closely. David.
Mary Bruce live at the White House tonight. Mary, thank you. When we come back here, the desperate search for an American and two friends, two brothers, missing while on a trip to Mexico. There is news coming in tonight. Several people detained in connection with this disappearance. And tonight, take a look at this image, an orangutan, and what scientists now say he used to heal himself, something never seen before. In a moment. Tonight, authorities are searching for an American and two friends, two Australian brothers, missing during a trip to Mexico. Jack Carter rode there on the right of your screen, and his two friends to the left vanished in Baja California on Mexico's northwest coast. Their families haven't heard from them in at least 4 days now. Authorities tonight say 3 people are now being detained in connection with their disappearance. When we come back on the broadcast tonight, the USDA testing ground beef for any signs of bird flu, their first results in tonight. And scientists stunned by what that injured orangutan used to heal himself. In a moment. To the index of other news tonight, the USDA revealing results of ground beef tested for possible bird flu fragments. Federal officials tonight say all 30 samples tested negative. They were collected from states where dairy cows had tested positive for the virus. The USDA says the negative results tonight confirm the meat supply is safe. Tonight, meanwhile, Ford recalling 243,000 Maverick pickups here in the U.S. The automaker warning the truck's taillights could go dark, raising the risk of a possible crash. The recall includes certain pickups from model years 2022 to 2024. Ford says there have been no reports of crashes or injuries. Owners will be notified by mail. Tonight, remarkable research showing for the first time a wild animal using a medicinal plant on their own to treat an open wound. Scientists from a distance studying an orangutan with an injury on his face, just under his eyelid there. He is seen chewing a leafy plant and using the paste to relieve the pain and treat the wound himself. The injury healing after a week. Scientists say it's the first time they've seen a wild animal apply medicine to a wound. The study appearing in the journal Scientific Reports. When we come back here tonight, the stunning image. You'll see the beautiful bird captured in a photograph. Can you identify it? And is this the first time one has been seen in the U.S.? Finally tonight here, bird watchers and scientists are very excited about an image captured on a beach in Oregon. One beautiful bird. Tonight in Oregon at Hug Point State Park west of Portland, an incredible and perhaps first of its kind image here in the U.S. You're looking at what bird watchers believe is a blue rock thrush, a species never before documented here in the United States, native to Europe and Asia, known for its unique colored blue back and chestnut front. The image captured by amateur photographer and middle school teacher Michael Sanchez. He was there at sunrise taking photos of the beach when all of a sudden he spots the beautiful bird. And right here tonight.
Hello, David.
That teacher telling us he shared the images hoping to officially identify the bird.
Before I knew it, I had folks from birding associations getting in touch with me, asking me about this bird. It has been a wild ride.
The discovery sending bird watchers flocking to that state park. The photo now being studied by scientists. And joining us tonight.
Hi, David.
Brody Cass-Talbot from the Bird Alliance of Oregon.
It's probably the rarest bird that's ever been recorded in Oregon. It's also first for the United States.
Tonight, bird watchers everywhere excited.
The leading theory is that this bird was migrating, encountered a storm, got blown out to sea, and potentially found a passing ship headed to the United States.
And this evening, that middle school teacher and amateur photographer proud of his find.
What I'm mostly happy about is this brings a little bit of joy and a little bit of beauty to everybody's lives.
A lot of beauty, and we thank you. I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.
Thank you for making World News Tonight with David Muir, America's most watched newscast.